Sure shot, baby.
So, good day, everyone. We're here for another episode of the DVD show. So, for today, we have one of the best play-by-play people here in the sporting industry here in the Philippines, as he's been covering the UAAP for so many years now, and now currently he's working for Signal TV as he covers the NBA now, as he has a show called NBA Hype. So, I wanna welcome Sir Boom Gonzalez. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Hello, just call me Boom. It's fine. Thank you very much. Congratulations on your show, and hello to everybody who's listening and watching.
Yeah, so before we get into things, I invited you to talk about the NBA after the trade deadline moves. I wanted to ask first, how you been doing, because now we're back to lockdown and it's been tough for so many people.
Okay, still been busy. We also kind of stopped for a while shooting NBA hype because of the ECQ because we can't go to the studio to record. But I took a break from TV for almost a year. And then I was out of the country for a while during the pandemic. I went back to Singapore, which is where I also stay every now and then while sports wasn't going on. And then I came back, I think, around February and started work with Signal or NBA TV Philippines. And moving moving forward, we'll be doing coverage for volleyball and basketball and a few other things in the pipeline for a lot of the college students. So we have some good things happening. So, but yeah, but I do NBA hype every Saturday um, with a few of our friends who are very good at what they do.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you were in Singapore for a lot of the pandemic. Isn't it hard for you since your wife is based there and it's in a pandemic pa, so parang ang dami ng problems and yeah.
Yeah, Eh, excuse me. It was, but really there wasn't anything I could have done or she could have done. She's in a way safer place.
For
I was
sure.
there for I was there for 3.5 months, and it was a great. I'm there very often anyway, but it was a great experience to be there for 3.5 months because there were not a lot of restrictions because they have the virus under control in the communities. It's almost zero or one or two or three. So we were free to do everything there in Singapore. So but the whole time for a while, yeah, we were on vacation. We were touring Thailand and Indonesia before the lockdown happened, March of 2020. And then I came back to the Philippines.
Yeah.
She went back to Singapore. And then I went back in November, I think, or last week of October. So it was tough, but there's nothing I could do. But I am, I guess, happy that she's in a safer place. So I can only look out for myself now here. At least just myself na lang.
Yeah, for sure, for
And my
sure.
family, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Sana maging safe din dito na in the near future kasi
Sana, it's not, yeah, we hope so that we can do a lot of other things personally. And of course, from a work standpoint, we can experience a lot of sports again coming back. So, yeah.
yeah. So how about quarantine activities? Did you learn or do something new during the whole like 1 year period of panda pandemic?
when I was here in the Philippines during that time, I was, the first 2 months wasn't as busy, but once May hit, I s- for fortunately, and I'm lucky to say that I was quite busy with a few projects, both online and others that were not online. So from a business standpoint and from some online jobs, I was kind of busy. I was doing a lot of work, a lot of reading, also a lot of catching up, a lot of learning. Um, but yeah, I think I was a bit lucky in that department. Uh, and I did a lot of home workouts. Obviously, that's I guess I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was one of the lucky ones that at least I was distracted, with a lot of work from May till the time I left in October.
Mhm.
Uh, when the companies started to kind of pivot and adjust events also and hosting, so I was able to do a lot of even from production houses, from venues. I went to the production houses, got tested, and then proceeded with certain events that I hosted from a production studio with no audience. So I did a lot of those things and a lot of online hosting too, and some projects for the collective. We did a little bit
Yeah.
of a thing for LaSalle for the
Yeah.
LaSalle volleyball team. Yeah, and then doing some stuff for the Inspire Sports Academy also for
Oh
the
yeah.
collective,
I've
which I
seen.
am a part of. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a busy year. Did a few things from the motoring uh, side of things also, which is something that I do also. So and then I went to Singapore, and then I just enjoyed my life in Singapore and enjoyed everything there with the freedom that I had. So yeah, I guess I would have to say I was one of the lucky ones. Um, Not to say that I didn't get affected by everything that happened. Everybody was affected in one way or another, mentally, physically. So there were some anxious moments. There were some moments of uncertainties, even from a business standpoint. In retail and all that, it was very uncertain what was going to happen. So but hey, we survived and um, was healthy, and I'm thankful for that. And I also hope that your viewers, your listeners, are also healthy and are dealing with it productively.
Yeah, that's a really great point to hear that you were really fortunate and lucky to have jobs in the middle of a pandemic with a lot of people losing jobs. And yeah, going
You know,
back
the,
to
the truth is, where if I may
yeah,
interrupt you, the
go
truth is
ahead.
also is I took an attitude of being proactive about
Yeah.
things also. So whatever that means, I don't need to explain it because that's for a
Yeah.
different podcast. But
Yeah.
but I was just very proactive after the first 2 months or a month and a half, which was tough. Separated from my wife, separated from my family, also whom I couldn't go to in Antipolo, my mom and my brother and my pets. It was tough, but after settling in and kind of adjusting to a new routine, and then I became a little more proactive about certain things, especially when it came to a work standpoint and a business standpoint. So I think that helped me a little bit. My attitude changed, and so I think everything followed.
Yeah, I just wanted to also mention that I did watch the collective, like some of the episodes with Jimmy Alapag, LA Tenorio, and the
Mm.
DLSU Lady Spikers. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen.
yeah. That's right. Some of the things that we did with
Yeah,
LA and Jimmy and Nike and
yeah,
Jordan brand also. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We did a few of those things. Yeah, that's right. And right now we're busy. We haven't put out anything from a production standpoint, but we're busy with the Inspire Sports Academy. That's why.
yeah. So it's really great to hear. So to move on, it's a really great
Mm.
discussion since you mentioned that you've been working for Signal TV and having a show of NBA hype that's weekly every Saturday. It's good to discuss what's going on now with the NBA season. So first off, I wanted to ask, what are your initial observations with the whole season? Since now, like fans are coming in already, it's meron ng konting home court advantage and so many injuries, to name a few things happening.
It's a weird season. Let's admit it. Coming from the bubble, and me and my colleague Nico Ramos were able to talk to a lot of NBA players and executives towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
I don't know if you got to see that at
yeah,
the Republic Huddle Facebook page, at the NBA Facebook page. And, that was a very challenging season, obviously. And then now here, it's weird because a lot of the things, especially in the first 2 months, teams are affected from an injury standpoint and from a safety and health protocol standpoint. So a lot of the things that affected them are still kind of affecting them now, whether it's from a team standing wise or from a chemistry. standpoint. Some of the teams are just getting their players back, and it's not as easy as even if they're veterans or superstars or non-superstars. When you get one or two players back, it's not as easy as like, okay, first game, second game, you can turn things around already and you can build chemistry already. It's not as easy as that. Plus, there is that situation that they cannot have the usual practices that they would be able to experience,
For sure,
in
yeah.
previous years, right?
Yeah.
The shoot arounds, the practice sessions, traveling has been crazy, quarantine has been crazy. So it's a weird season. They're making the most out of it. Unfortunately, it has affected more teams than others. And partly, to be honest, is the injuries are also because of the lack of treatments and preparation time and rest time. And as you know, we started the season, abruptly also and early, right? So a lot of that is we're seeing the effect now. So it's crazy, it's weird, but it's also fun as it always is with these
Yeah.
high level athletes. You know, we're seeing a lot of things that we haven't seen in previous years. Some teams that we didn't expect to struggle are struggling. Excuse me. Some teams that are who have done poorly in previous years have shot up to the top. And that's good. The unpredictability is good for us fans, of course. So it's fun, it's weird, it's strange, but we will take it as NBA fans because buti na meron kesa wala, di ba?
Yeah. Speaking on the shoot around, you mentioned that it's really like cut short or sometimes wala talaga. Kasi
Yeah,
JJ Redick and his podcast, they always rant about like yung COVID tests because they need to wake up early and normally that's the time they sleep or they have a nap in the afternoon or yeah, shoot around and biglang nakakat short or hindi natutuloy. So yung rhythm nila, yung routine na iiba. It's really hard for them.
I bet. We don't see these things as fans here in the Philippines, especially. Hindi natin nakikita yan. We don't see these things. We don't read about them all the time. But I mean, to be an NBA professional athlete and to deal with all of these things, I mean, yes, they're paid so much money. Beside all of that, just when you think about um, the things that they have to go through, also like the traveling, being separated from family, and all of these things, it's pretty tough. And then you have to be playing at your best
Mhm.
um, for in 5 days, 4 games in 5 days, 4 games in 6 days. That's why the ones who have been able to do it consistently in the past few years uh, have been the greatest athletes that we've experienced in the NBA. Because imagine being able to do those things. The Reddicks of the world who have been there
Yeah.
for a long time.
36 na siya.
LeBron,
Yeah.
right? LeBron and all the other guys, CP3 and all the other guys, and Carmelo, who have been doing this day in and day out for 14 to 18 years. It's amazing.
Yeah, I have some appreciation for players like that talaga. Like even Udonis Haslem, he's still with the Heat for like 20
Right?
years already. And even if he's not playing, he has a huge impact on the team in the locker room or off the
Yeah,
court.
because especially in the Miami culture, because they put a lot of emphasis on their vets who not only are part of the team but kind of part of the organization.
Mhm.
You've seen a lot of them. Just their coach has been part of their organization for almost 2 decades already, and
Yeah.
then you have other coaches, Joan Howard, Alonzo Mourning, who's now an executive.
Yeah.
These are people who started. I forgot the name of the assistant coach of Spo, a former point guard, backup point guard
Chris
also
Quinn.
of
Yeah.
Quinn. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in when you talk about Miami, that they're very famous for that, right? Like having people serve for them, play for them, and be with the organization for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a great point also. And it's also good to discuss later the moves they made in the trade deadline
Yeah.
because they made the
Yeah.
few. But first, I want to discuss like the defending champions, the Los Angeles Lakers, because during the trade deadline, they couldn't really move pieces because of the salary cap restrictions.
Right.
But they were active in the buyout market as they got Andre Drummond and Ben McLemore like a few days back only. So do
Yeah.
you
Right.
feel it's a huge impact for the team? And do you think that it would really help them despite the injuries to the key guys like LeBron and AD?
Well, as of us recording this, and without LeBron, I think they've won 4 of the last 6, if I'm not mistaken, as of this recording.
Yeah,
Um, LeBron, AD, right now they need to stay afloat. I think as of this conversation, they're at number 5, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I think
You're
five.
obviously trying to avoid the number 7 and 8 with the new setup with the play-in. Um, it will help them definitely right now try to survive. But again, like I go back to that point earlier, you're inserting new pieces who are trying to learn plays, play calls, trying to get comfortable with people, with your housing. These are things that you don't even consider, like your housing situation, your all of these things, all your other
Yeah,
teammates' practices or lack thereof. So a lot of them are they're being plugged into the team as they go, as they play, right? Like Ben McLemore just signed one day, the next day, no practice.
yeah,
Victor Oladipo, the same thing. They
yeah,
were on the road when they got him, and they did all of their orientation through Zoom. And even in I think the first 2 games that he practiced, first 2 games that he played, there wasn't any kind of practice. But yes,
yeah.
back to the Lakers.
Mhm.
It will kind of help them stay afloat because those are quality players, who are aching for a chance to prove themselves. Obviously, Ben McLemore, whom LeBron was very high on
Yeah,
back in 2013.
yeah. I saw the tweet.
Um,
You shared it.
right,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
Andre Drummond, you 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 tend to judge him because of the teams that he's been with and how
Mhm.
he's played there, which is unfair. But here, I'm
Mhm.
sure he's going to be rejuvenated, especially when Anthony Davis and LeBron comes back. Um, so yeah, I think that will help them try to survive at the very least. Um, to try to make games ugly defensively, because obviously offensively they're going to struggle in terms of where they're going to get their points. Kuzma was out in that game against Miami this morning. So,
Oh yeah.
um, right.
Mhm.
So injuries, and you never know. Even with Anthony and LeBron, you never know in terms of how they will play when they come back. Obviously, they're going to be good and all that. But talking about whether they'll aggravate the injury,
Mhm.
re-injure, and
Yeah.
all that. So these are also, I guess, insurance policies just in case people go down in the future again or go down going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Lakers didn't have much time to rest in between seasons,
Yeah.
right? Just like
70
Miami,
days. 70
right?
days.
Just
Yeah.
like Miami, who struggled also from the get go
Mhm.
because they didn't have enough time to rest and recover, and they lost a lot of players. So that is now like contributing to what's happening right now. I think from a physical conditioning standpoint, regardless of what we think about LeBron being, a cyborg. So, but good for them. Yeah, those are good pickups, despite the fact that they weren't able to get any tradable items, diba, because of their situation with financially talking about the Lakers.
Yeah, LeBron, AD, and Drummond. I feel that's a really tough three players to go in. Like the rim protection is gonna be great, so it's gonna be hard for the teams to really go in. So it's like they're gonna force them to beat them from the 3 point line and the medium range jumpers because wow, they're 6'8", 6'10", and like 6'10", and it's gonna be tough.
Right.
But then
Yeah, and quality players, and the playoffs games slow down really,
yeah,
um, and then they're going up against, there you got to prepare for guys like Aiton and Jokic and whoever
yeah,
you're going to be matched up against in the West in terms of the big guys, right? Gobert,
yeah,
all of these, yeah. So, I'm these Frank Vogel and the rest of I mean, in the NBA, when you talk about front offices and coaching teams, coaching staffs, these are things that they anticipate and try to think of moving forward.
yeah. I believe also that they're being more careful with the injury situation of AD and LeBron because LeBron's
Yeah,
age and then AD his injury is kind of scary because it might be similar to KD's because of what happened in
always,
the
yeah, yeah.
2019 finals. So maybe
It's
that's
it
why
it
they're
yeah.
not.
It's been
That's
a
why it's like
concern
that.
since last year, diba?
Yeah.
It's been a concern since last year. So they're going to try to be safe and sure until they're really ready to come back. And even when they come back, like I said, there's no assurance whether these injuries will recur
Mhm.
um, or aggravate. So you have to have some pieces to kind of absorb the shock. And I guess that's what's going to happen now with Drummond and Ben McElmore. And hopefully, guys like other guys would step up. Obviously, Kuzma, THT, Caldwell Pope
Yeah.
played spectacularly this morning also against Miami. So I'm no expert, but from the surface, I'll always say, I'm not a coach. I'm not, great in terms of strategy and all of these things. But from the surface, that's what I think it is. A lot of these moves are also insurance policies.
So do you think they're still the favorite to win it all, or at least win the West? Or is it more of a risk for them because they might fall into the play-in situation with Memphis and Dallas and all these other teams?
Well, if you ask me now, at this moment, they're number five. They're not yet in that play-in situation. And if you have LeBron and AD, it's hard to bet against them. But ag- again, we're talking of an ideal situation that everyone is healthy. If everyone is healthy, I still wouldn't bet against them. I mean, playoffs, series, you're only against one team for at least 4 games.
Yeah.
I would not bet against them. Um, I'm not saying they're the overwhelming favorite, not with the way others are playing, but
Yeah.
they've got the experience, they've got the material, coaching, they've got LeBron who's incredibly motivated to get another ring, obviously. Um, so yeah, if you're asking me currently right now, I'm not going to use the word favorite because of how they've been playing. Obviously, you've got Utah and Phoenix who have been playing out of their minds
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
But the real test is always in the playoffs. And those two teams, unfortunately, are not tested in the playoffs. Utah, as we know the story already, what happened to them last year, which I think is one of the reasons why they're doing so well also this year, is because of that heartbreak from
Mhm.
last year. Some lessons learned. Then Phoenix, a couple of years ago, had 19 wins only, and then
Yeah.
last year had that great run in the bubble, and then got CP3 and Coach Monty with a full year, as we talked with him last year, had now a full year to have training camp with him. So I'm not surprised that they're doing very well. Um, so I don't want to use the word favorites around the Lakers, but I still would not bet against them if everything is equal. Now, unequal, let's say Davis is compromised, LeBron is compromised, definitely they're not going to be the favorites.
Yeah.
If those two are compromised,
Yeah.
definitely. But if
Yeah.
everything equal, everyone healthy, it's still tough to bet against them. Just because they know how to win. LeBron knows how to win, and he's learned all these years already um, to at least give yourself a chance all the time, right? So, and you're the defending champions, the saying, until they topple you,
Yeah.
unless the team was, drastically cut and it's a totally different team altogether, then I wouldn't, say they're the favorites. But because it's basically almost the same team that got better from a personnel standpoint this year, with Harrell and Schroeder and all the other moves that they were able to make, and they have a backup guy with Mark Gasol who's still there.
Yeah.
You'd be silly you know not to put your money on them, regardless of whether you're a fan or not. Just when you think about being honest with yourself and think about the pieces that they have. Again, I'll reiterate: if everything's equal and if everybody's healthy, there I think you still have to go through them, because also I want to make that point that home court, as much as it's a big deal in previous years, it's not going to be as big as it is this year, because I don't know how full arenas are going to be. Um, so when you're a team like the Lakers, I think health is the priority over standings. Now, being number 7 and number 8 is a totally different thing because of the play-in situation. But if you're number 5, 6, if you can get to number 4, you're 4 and 5, you avoid the top 3 in the first round,
Yeah.
right? Um, and you're healthy, home court won't be an issue for LeBron and the gang. I think they know how to win when it comes to those situations.
Yeah, I agree also with the sentiments that you said of LeBron because I think 2017 or 18, I also thought that LeBron would like someone would beat him in the playoffs, but then he swept the Raptors, I think, and they were first seed. And then they beat the Celtics in seven in a series where he had I think Kyrie wasn't there anymore and Love was hurt or something, and they still beat him
Right,
with like J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson, Della Vedova, and
right.
all these players.
The biggest difference of your comparison, and yes, I agree with you because again, you got LeBron, you had those
Yeah.
veterans who've won a championship already. Um, but that was the East also, which is a relatively weaker
Hmm.
conference as compared to, I mean, the stacked West right now. The West is going to be
Yeah.
exciting. Whatever kind of pairing that's going to happen there, it's going to be really exciting. So the challenge obviously is bigger in in the West.
Yeah, definitely. So two of the teams that you mentioned a while ago weren't really busy in the trade deadline, which are the top two teams right now, Phoenix and Utah. So who do you believe in more heading into the playoffs? And what do you think? Do you think they could maybe reach the finals more or get upset in the first round?
Who between the two
Yeah.
do I think will advance? If it's
Yeah.
just a choice between the
Yeah.
two,
Or like neither if you want.
no. I mean, this is all hypothetical.
Yeah.
Um, if it's just between Phoenix and Utah, right?
Hmm.
Um, I would still go with Utah. So let me answer this question this way. I would like Phoenix to advance, but
Yeah.
I think Utah will advance. Again, here's another thing. We have to put everything into context when we answer questions like these. Huh? I
Hmm.
mean, even if I'm no expert,
Yeah.
just to be clear, it will all depend on matchups also. Because
Oh.
as depende yan eh, di ba? Kung matchup eh, what if one team gets the better of the other, just like what happened to Miami last year, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, but if let's say it's the battle between the two of them. Let's
Hmm.
say it's that, right? Um, I would like CP3 to advance, but I think, and his experience is obviously huge. It might even offset the experience of Utah in the last 2 years. But I think Utah, because of the experience that they've gained the last couple of years in the playoffs, including the heartbreak last year, they might have learned a thing or two, or at least I want to believe that they would have learned a thing or two from that heartbreak to know how to get to the next level. The biggest really curveball for the Phoenix is Chris Paul. And if he can stay healthy, he does have a tendency also to hurt a hamstring or,
Yeah.
every now and then during the playoffs. So I'm hoping he stays healthy because they will need his experience and Jay Crowder's experience.
Yeah. It's only the two of
Um,
them.
correct, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm giving the edge to Utah because of their experience of heartbreaks in the playoffs. But at least they were in the playoffs, right? You know what I mean? Phoenix was not in the playoffs last year. And the only guys who have any kind of experience really is Jay Crowder, who went to the finals and has been through different teams. And of course, CP3, we all know uh, his resume. So that's the curveball there. But from a team standpoint, you would like to think that, Utah has learned from the last couple of years from their heartbreaks and maybe will be able to get at the very least, all the way to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, again, we're just talking about those two teams. We're not involving the Lakers,
Others.
5, Denver, and all that. Because again, matchups yan eh.
Mm.
Matchups yan eh. It's that's the fun thing about the NBA. You can be as dominating as you are. Just talk to the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Last 2 years,
Yeah.
and then when it gets to the playoffs, the game changes. So the schemes are different. And then you're only preparing for one team. So the team that's defending, you can isolate certain things, right? And matchups are can just be awful for some teams, and that's what happened to Milwaukee the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Utah, like they had a tough time defending Luca the other day. So it's really gonna be tough
Yeah.
for them if they face Dallas. You never know. Like if they get a 8 seed Dallas versus a 1 seed Utah, you never know
That's
what
another
can
thing.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for Phoenix naman, it's kind of hard because like Devin Booker has never been to the playoffs yet, and people are kind of questioning what what showing he will show in the playoffs when the bright lights are
And
there.
rightfully so. I think that's not a knock on him.
Yeah,
It's not a negative thing. I mean, right? You've never been there.
yeah,
So rightfully so that he should be questioned. I think that's not a bad thing. But
yeah.
the great thing is they have, I mean, the experience the Langni CP3, that's so huge. And
Mm,
it's you just see it in their game, how, the biggest difference. And not to say that to discount the improvement of D Book, of course. But Monty Williams and
yeah,
CP3 have been tremendous for Phoenix, and the work that James Jones, the GM, has done
yeah.
has been great. I think I have a little bit of a, because we had a 1 hour conversation with Monty Williams late last year, and
Yeah, I
and
remember.
for him to say the things that he did gave me a little hope for them. I was excited for Phoenix this year because of that conversation. To be honest, I wanted to see what the changes, because he said he felt pretty good about their team in the lead up to the season. In the off season, they looked like they were very motivated. They looked like they wanted to continue what they started in the bubble. So I was personally excited to see what was going to happen.
Yeah, so for Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns, yeah, they still need to prove themselves in the playoffs. But two other teams that were pretty busy in the buyout market and trade deadline that can compete with the Lakers, Jazz, and Suns are the Clippers and the Nuggets, but also even the Trailblazers. Actually, the three of them were active in the trade deadline. But for those other three teams, does one of them stand out to you, or do you believe what they showed last year is still gonna be similar to this year?
Well, the Nuggets have not lost with Aaron Gordon. Again, as of this recording,
Yeah, they haven't. Yeah,
as of us conversing about, they haven't lost with
yeah,
Aaron Gordon. So obviously I underestimated that trade. Again, what do I know?
yeah,
Right? I underestimated it. I didn't think it. I didn't say it was not a great trade. I just didn't really put a lot into it. Like, I didn't. I guess in my mind, I wasn't expecting great things.
mhm,
I was expecting additional firepower and another big guy. But because Aaron Gordon, in my opinion, also has not really proven himself or
yeah.
done
He hasn't.
anything.
Yeah,
So maybe that's where my skepticism came from. But again, in the NBA or in sports in general, in team sports in general, the beauty of it sometimes is that when you're put in a situation where you're happier, when you're put in a situation where you have the ability to excel because of the pieces around you, um, it brings out your game. It brings out a different attitude. So maybe that's what's happening also with him personally. Um, so obviously they're dangerous with a leading MVP candidate and
yeah,
there, and then we know although Murray hasn't been, I guess, consistent this year as
yeah.
compared to the last couple of years, but if you're a Denver fan, you're hoping that that changes when it comes to the playoffs. And again, they have experience in the playoffs a couple of years already. This specific team has been, you know, dealing with heartbreaks too, but they've had some great battles with Portland in previous years. They've had some great battles with Utah, obviously,
Yeah.
and then the experience of going up against the Lakers, right? Last year.
Who Denver? Yeah, they did. West
Yeah, right.
Finals.
So,
Yeah,
so, so to me, I can say I always put value in those things in previous years' experience, especially if you keep a core intact. It's not a different team. This is pretty much almost the same team that dealt with the heartbreaks against Portland and heartbreaks against or the battles against Utah and the heartbreaks against the Lakers. So the experience to me is a big thing from the coach down to the players. So yeah, Denver is a sleeper right there, and their acquisition of Aaron Gordon, something I slept through, also is doing very well for them. I like to see centers succeed in the NBA. Just so there's also a different narrative, a
Yeah.
different conversation. Um, just for my job to be a little more exciting, also to be talking about other things. So I like them. Who's the other one that you
Clippers, because they
mentioned?
acquired
The
Cousins
Clippers,
and
right?
Rondo, and then Portland acquired Norman Powell for Gary Trent
Well,
and Rodney Hood.
in terms of the Clippers, the Rondo thing, I think is big.
Hmm.
I think it showed in the game today.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, guys, again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but his experience is invaluable, and I really think the Clippers really needed a voice, which they really don't have. They have a couple of stars. They have a proven Finals MVP and champion, yes, but Kawhi is not a vocal leader. In the times that he was successful, he had somebody to do that for him,
Yes.
and all he had to do is play
Yes, for
and
sure.
be
Yeah.
and be clutch and
Yeah.
be cyborgish in his in his game. So, but he had Timmy before, he had Parker, he had Manu, and then he had Kyle Lowry when they
Yeah.
won, right? Who are like vocal leaders.
Hmm.
And now they have Rondo. I think that's the element that Rondo brings more than any other thing. Somebody to galvanize them, somebody to actually talk other than the coach. Because Kawhi is not a talk guy.
Hmm.
And PG probably can talk, but I think he
Not so
doesn't
much.
have, yeah, and even if he does, he doesn't have the command of a team.
Hmm.
Rondo can be that guy for them. I always I make a joke around my friends. I say sometimes when I watch the Clippers, I just don't see it. Even in their wins, I don't see a joy in their game. I
Yeah.
don't see
Yeah.
a soul in their game. I
Yeah.
don't mean to be so poetic or anything like that,
Hmm.
but there's something lacking. But the Marcus Cousins thing, I'm sure is there again. That's one of those insurance policies to go up against some of the other big guys when they actually meet. The other big guys. That's another 6 fouls who can maybe give you an extra 4 or 5
Yeah.
rebounds, maybe extra 5 points. And then extra 6 fouls against the Jokic's or the Drummonds
Yeah.
now who are all in the West,
Mm.
or Anthony Davis and all that. And Rondo used to play with Cousins, obviously.
Yeah.
Very
Twice.
familiar with him.
Kings
Twice
and
with the
Pelicans.
Lakers and the Pelicans and Kings, right?
Yeah.
Successfully too, right? Had very good rapport with Rondo. So um, yeah, I think that I for me it's a great pickup because that even makes the West even more wild, right? It
Yeah.
evens out a few
Yeah.
more things. At least nagkaroon ng point guard etong
Clippers.
Clippers that
Yeah.
has leadership uh, capabilities. Portland, I think their trade is working out very well for them, right? Um, I just hope that Portland stays healthy. I hope Nurkic stays healthy. I hope McCollum stays healthy because kawawa naman si Damian Lillard. Every year na lang pag nakakarating ng playoffs, laging siya na lang siya eh.
Oh.
So I want to see him compete because I love him. I love how he plays. I love his no nonsense approach to basketball. I want to see him compete with a complete lineup for once. Uh, just so I could, you could say that they have a puncher's chance instead of them approaching a series na dehado ka agad kasi wala si McCollum o
Yeah.
wala na naman si Nurkic,
Yeah.
wala si Cantor o wala si ganito or compromised si whoever.
Mm.
Now they have a healthy Norman Powell, right? Who's playing very well. Si Damian nga yung medyo nasaktan pa the other day, right?
Mhm.
So I did not play a couple of games. And then Nurkic is back. He's back, right?
He played a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully for Portland fans, I mean, we deserve to see that team more.
Yeah, for the West, when I talked with Migs Bustos for the NBA preview, it was a bold prediction. I just said that Portland's gonna make the West Finals against Lakers, but I don't know if it's gonna happen now. Maybe if I say like Denver, I'd be more confident with that. But I'd
Well,
stick with Portland for now. I mean, there's still a chance.
finals.
Yeah,
So
West Finals.
again, because there are a lot of things that may happen,
Mm.
injuries, and matchups. Those are the two things that I always think about when it comes to the playoffs already. It's hard to make bold predictions, obviously, at the start of the season because you're not accounting for a lot of other things like the ability to practice, health and safety protocols. As it has affected so many teams, including Portland, including Washington, whom I believe could have done better if they started better. Miami probably wouldn't have that record. They probably would be really solid at number four, maybe challenging for number three
Yeah.
if they did not, deal with a lot of at 1.56 players out. Philadelphia, I'm surprised, has done very well, even with a lot of their players being
Yeah.
out for safety and health protocols. So, a lot of things can happen. So you never know. I mean, don't give up on your Portland wish.
How about you? Before we segue to the East, do you have a prediction for the West Finals, or maybe who will win the West also?
No, I think partly it's part of my job to kind of staying away from um, rooting for teams. Parang na-train na ako all these years of
Mm.
me working in the UAP. No matter what the accusations about me are, I really don't have any
Yeah.
affinity from a personal standpoint to all of the teams in the UAP because I didn't go to any UAP school. So I think I've done that because for many years also I did play-by-play work for ABS-CBN Sports for the NBA when me and TJ would work or
Mhm.
when we were sent to the NBA a lot for All-Star and finals. So I think I've developed really this way of appreciating games from a neutral standpoint and just enjoy games. So I don't know. First of all, we don't even know who's going to be matched up against who.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
think,
Last
I
day pa
think,
yan.
right. If
Yeah.
we get that, you'll have a clearer, probably, even for me, I'll probably have a clearer, because that can say so much already. Di ba? I can say right now, oh, the Lakers are still going to make it. But what if they fall to number 8 or 7 with
Yeah.
this, run that's happening? And
Mahirap.
when it comes to the play-in, where one loss you go home,
Yeah.
a lot of things can happen. Somebody may get hot and score 45 points, and all of a sudden cools down the next day, and the guy who beats the team that beats the favored team, all of a sudden it crashes out of the playoffs also.
Yeah.
So it happens in tennis, it happens in a lot of other sports. So right now it's tough to tell, but hey, Utah and Phoenix are looking very good in terms of their not only their standing but the way they're playing also.
Mhm.
But you can't count out Denver because right now they're doing very well with their new acquisition. And then you can never count out the defending champions because when they get LeBron and AD back, that's going to be tough. So all we can do is really just lay back and watch. I don't really have any kind of prediction when it comes to who's going to make it to the
Yeah.
finals. I just the only thing I always hope for is I just hope there's no major injuries because
Yeah. Mhm.
that will affect already everything. Like for one team, diba? It
Mhm.
affects everything already. It affects your chances already. So we'll
Yeah,
just
mas
wait and see.
masaya talaga pag complete yung lineup. Even the players say like they don't want to have compromised
Yeah,
opponents playing in the
all things.
finals.
Yeah, all things
Yeah.
equal. I think that Miami Lakers finals last year would have gone 7 if Bam wasn't injured from game 2 onwards,
Mhm.
and Goran Dragic, also was there.
Yeah.
I still think the Lakers would have won, but I
Mhm.
think that would have gone to 7, and
Yeah.
it would have been interesting if it
Yeah.
was 7.
Yeah.
Would have been more exciting. Yeah.
So moving on to the Eastern Conference, listened to many podcasts, and they're kind of saying that it's an overwhelming favorite na for the Brooklyn Nets to reach the finals, and a lot of them are also saying that Brooklyn is the favorites to win because, as you mentioned, the Lakers are compromised now with AD and LeBron on the sidelines. And I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan of Brooklyn. Because I'm not a huge fan of James Harden and Kyrie. Not that even before pa. So I don't
Mm.
really believe in them when it comes to the playoffs. But in your opinion, they added what Blake Griffin and Lamarcus Aldridge in the buyout market. Do you believe that the
Right.
Nets? Do you believe that the Nets are going to really go through the Eastern Conference playoffs easily, or do you think
Oh no.
someone can pose a threat to them?
I don't want to use the word easily. Do I think they're the favorites? Do I think if everything's equal and everybody's there,
Yeah, everyone.
how can they not be? I mean, um, the other guys that they got, in my opinion, again, are insurance policies. And they're very good insurance policies. These are moves that they made, I feel, because they also are not sure whether their big three can play throughout the season healthy, and this is what's happening. Um, what I think they've only played 7 games together, if I'm not
Yeah, until
mistaken,
now,
something like that, right?
seven pa rin.
Still
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So, having Lamarcus there and Blake there is not the same as, let's say they lose Harden, who got injured as reliable and as sturdy as that guy is. Um, those are insurance policies just in case one or two gets injured, and who knows what Kyrie's, whether it's an injury or a personal matter that he has to attend to. Who knows what's going to happen? So I think those guys are in place just in case one or two are out for whatever reason going into the playoffs. But if everybody's healthy, I think they are favorites. I wouldn't say they were gonna go easily through the East, but they are going to be favorites. And the thing that most experts say from the very start that they had to improve was better defense and better rebounding. And if you put Blake there and Lamarcus there, that addresses the rebounding part at the
yeah,
very least.
yeah,
And if they can only be decent defensively, and they have been against some of the other teams, they have been decent at certain times. With Brooklyn, I think they don't have to be decent defensively all throughout the game. They just have to be decent defensively in spurts where they can get the stops and then fuel their overwhelming offense, right? I think that's the secret for them. They don't have to be a lockdown defending team like, let's say, Miami, whose identity is in defense. So I'm not, regardless of whether you're a fan or not, just to be objective about it, it's hard not to put them as favorites. But I will not say they're easily going to go through, because Philadelphia, if everything is healthy, everyone is healthy, including, of course, Embiid. I think that's a tough matchup defensively, because I think defensively Philadelphia has been so good. I think Doc Rivers has obviously made the biggest difference there in terms of how they play offensively and defensively. So I wouldn't get past that. Um, Milwaukee, obviously, I'm still not sold, because I'm not sold on Coach Bud the last 2 years. I
same.
feel
Yeah,
like he's not. Again, what do I know? But just from a
yeah,
personal standpoint and
yeah,
opinion, I feel like he hasn't changed his schemes from regular season to playoffs in the last
same.
2 years. Now we've seen him change it up this year, and in the process of him changing it up this year, they've lost some games and they won some close games. And I think that benefits them. I think the fact that they're not blowing out teams like they've been doing the last 2 years, they've been winning tight games and losing some tight games also by trying out other schemes. I think this will benefit them in the playoffs. Will it work? I don't know, because again, Philadelphia and Brooklyn are so stacked, right? And have extreme confidence going into the playoffs. Not even talk about the lineup, just the confidence that they have. So, so that's my question for Milwaukee. Uh, yes, they have experience in the playoffs, but they're not good experiences. They've been bounced out quite easily,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think that's a coach thing. I think it's just Bud not being able to adjust in the playoffs against the teams uh, who have beaten them. Who's beaten them in the playoffs? Miami was the one who
yeah.
beat them last
Toronto
year,
and
correct?
Miami.
And then Toronto the year before,
Yeah,
right? So those were incredibly disciplined defensive teams. And that's why I say in the playoffs it's so different, because now you can scheme against one team only. Unlike in the regular season, you're thinking about the Lakers now, but you also have Phoenix, let's say, the next day. So your advanced scouts, your assistant coaches are already studying film, about and preparing for your trip, your West Coast trip. You know what I mean? You're thinking about those things.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, you don't think about those things
Yeah.
anymore. You're only thinking about one team and schemes to stop one team for at least 4 games. So I'm not sold on that. Miami's always dangerous when it comes to the playoffs. I think the Oladipo injury today, I don't know how bad that is, but he was
Yeah.
looking good with them
Yeah.
in the last 4 games defensively, especially. Boy, Miami was flying defensively the last four games. Even in the loss, they just got shot out by Memphis the other day.
Yeah.
But defensively, the potential for that team, and of course offensively, what Oladipo and Trevor Ariza can bring in spurts. But yeah, I saw in that 4 game winning streak what that length and that defensive lineup could do with Oladipo starting with Butler, then Duncan Robinson, and then Bam, and then Trevor Ariza. That's
Mm.
what they played with the last 4 games. Defensively, it was so good.
Yeah.
So you put them in a scenario where it's just the playoffs. They know how to win. They have a seasoned champion coach. They have confidence when it comes to the playoffs because they've been there, and it's a solid core with a lot of veterans and high IQ players. That's a tough out too. I'm not saying they're going to win. Maybe past the second round. I don't know if they depends on where they land. But again, if they land in the 4 and 5, you're safe against the top 3 teams, right?
Yes.
So if let's say by now they are up against Atlanta, they have a good chance of
Kayang
going to the
kaya.
second round.
Yeah.
That's where it gets interesting. Who are you going to battle in the second round? If let's say they battle, I don't know, Milwaukee or Philadelphia, they're confident about their lineup. If everyone's healthy, you know. But obviously Brooklyn with the lineup, if everyone's healthy, they're overwhelming favorites. But I wouldn't throw around the word easy in the playoffs because that lineup has not been tested together
Mm-hmm.
in a series. Totally different things. You can't a lot of things that don't work in the regular season. From what I've been watching all these years, when they do it in the playoffs, it's totally different. So chemistry is going to be a big question in the playoffs when the game slows down, when things get tight, and when tensions are high. It's a good thing that the people that they assemble, talking about Brooklyn, are also veterans din naman.
Mm-hmm.
They've been through different wars na rin. So I don't think they'll panic. It's just a matter of whether they'll have playoff chemistry. What they're showing right now is regular season chemistry, which
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, which is scary. I mean, at certain times it's scary. When Kevin Durant came back and did not miss a shot,
Mm-mm.
right?
Yeah.
And that guy's proven in the finals. He's proven in the playoffs. So we'll see. I think playoff chemistry is still in question.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a hot take, but in my opinion, kasi like Brooklyn, they got Griffin and Aldridge, right? But it didn't address their need that they need to guard for someone to guard Giannis, Embiid, and Bam because I don't know, like is Nicholas Claxton gonna guard them or Aldridge
Yeah.
or Griffin? Because it's
I,
gonna
I
be tough to defend those three.
well, the thing is, sometimes for teams who's available na lang in the market, and if we can't get anybody who can guard Giannis or let's say Embiid or whatever, I think they're taking their confidence like, okay, but who's gonna guard Kyrie, Harden, and KD at the same time? That's how
Mm-mm.
they're thinking right now. I mean, you see it in the game sometimes. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, especially in the first few parts of the season, you see it that they're just not. Bahala na. They're not going to try to defend. They're just going to try to outscore you.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, they have the ability to. So I guess their thinking is because if they have the defensive capability to stop Giannis and all that, wala na, game over na yan. If they have somebody who can guard a Giannis,
Mm-mm.
God is still fair. At least they still don't have that guy.
Yeah.
Or let's say Embiid, who, there's no way
Yeah.
Aldridge or DJ is going to be able to stop
Yeah.
Embiid, right? But I think their thinking right now is it's fine, but let's let's maybe work on Tobias Harris. We've got guys for that. Let's work on um, Middleton uh, or Drew Holiday if we're talking about Milwaukee. And then if everyone is healthy, now I'm not making an argument for Brooklyn. I'm just trying to be objective that, I mean, they can't stop every single player out there for sure. But how about them? Who's going to stop them also? And we probably won't be able to stop one or two guys to you, but can you stop our three guys? When everything's clicking. But the question is everybody going to be available for Brooklyn? That's the biggest question. Playoff chemistry and health is going to be the biggest question for Brooklyn, I think, going into the playoffs.
How about your confidence on the perimeter defense of the three other contenders? Because you mentioned that it's gonna be tough to guard Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. But like kunwari, Sixers, they have Ben Simmons, Danny
Yeah,
Green,
right.
Tobias,
That's why
and
that's why it's
something
a
like that.
great that's why it's a great matchup. If those two, um, and I did say it earlier that Philadelphia has turned into a great defensive team.
They're all long.
Um,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The only team that I can see in my non-expert eyes when everybody's healthy that can challenge them defensively is Miami and Philadelphia.
Yeah, same
They're
with
the
me.
only two
Yeah.
teams that have the material, the
Yeah.
length, the athletic ability, the IQ defensively to not contain them or stop them, but slow them down a little bit,
Mhm.
I guess, or stop one of them. Um, yeah, but that's the thing there, no? Um, when I they do have the material, Philadelphia. That's why it's going to be very interesting. At least from individual matchup, but those guys are otherworldly scorers. They will find a way. No disrespect to Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris.
Mhm.
Um, it's dangerous when, dude, if you can slow down a couple of them, okay ka na eh,
Yeah.
ba? Okay ka na eh. That I guess would be your intention there. If you can kind of contain two of them, that would be a dream scenario already. Um, I'm again, I'm not a expert coach, so I don't know in terms of what would be the scheme to slow them down. Because if I knew, I think if there was a lot of coaches who also knew, then I'm sure Brooklyn wouldn't have the team
Yeah.
standing that they
Yeah.
have right now. It's not just us. We can say whatever we can say as Filipinos, as fans, and all that. But look at them. I mean, when you talk about Brooklyn, they're 36-16, right? With the big three only playing 7 games.
Mhm.
So if we can't answer the question, I mean, if some of those coaches in the NBA have not been able to answer that question and have not been able to solve that puzzle, ano pa kaya tayo, di ba? We're looking
Mhm.
from the outside and we're not privy to all of the inside stuff. But as outsiders, that's, I guess, the best I can come up with. If you can slow down two of them at the very least, you know, uh, I guess that's when it gives you a chance.
Yeah, for me, Miami maybe because they have Butler, Ariza, Iguodala, and like for Bam also because
And
he
Oladipo,
scored
that
45. Oh
Oladipo
yeah,
thing,
Oladipo.
that's big.
Yeah.
That's why that injury today concerns me because
Mm-hmm.
they've shown a different. The last 3 or 4 games, their steals and their forcing of turnovers have jacked up since Oladipo arrived. Even if we're judging Oladipo by his offense and all that,
Yeah.
defensively, they've made the difference already with him in the lineup, just being more disruptive. So that's huge. That's huge because Miami is such a switchable lineup. That's the good thing about them. They can switch in
Yeah,
all.
Bam can switch anywhere. Yeah.
Trevor can switch.
Yeah.
And now Oladipo and Jimmy can switch. They do like
Yeah.
pick and rolls. Yeah. So again, I'm not super technical and great when it comes to these things, but just from optic standpoint, from the eye, that seems to be sensible.
Yeah, Bam, I wanted to raise lang that he scored 45 against the Nets or something earlier in the year without Butler, and they almost won. So I don't know. I
They
feel
almost
it's
won. Yeah, I remember that. I remember
yeah,
that. But
it'll be tough
you
for the
know,
Nets.
yes, but I also don't want to overreact to those things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you. Like, I did say that I think Miami has a great lineup to kind of disrupt a team like Brooklyn. They did the same thing to Philadelphia. Remember,
I remember.
even
Yeah,
without five players
yeah,
who were in safety protocols.
yeah,
I think it was a back-to-back game. The first one they lost in overtime all because of a turnover by Tyler Hero,
yeah. I
and then the
remember that.
second game they got blown out.
Mm-mm.
But the point I'm trying to make here is, as much as I also take from that, I also don't want to put too much weight on that
Mm-mm.
because it's the regular season. So
Yeah.
sometimes when we root for teams, we get skewed into thinking, regular season, three times sila nagkita, ganyan. Lalo na when we want to believe it. You know what I
Mm-mm.
mean? It's part of us being fans. Eh? Um, but when you really break it down, those things sometimes don't matter as much anymore when it comes to the playoffs because the game is totally different and the situation around is totally different. The scouting is different. The schemes are different. So the teams nga that you meet sabihin mo, you met two or three times in the regular season, it's not even the same team that you meet in the playoffs anymore
Ah,
because,
yeah.
right? Oladipo is there, let's say,
Trades. Yeah, yeah.
same with Brooklyn, now
Mm-mm.
with Blake and Lamarcus. So yeah, I don't want to put too much weight on regular season matchups, but it's a nice thing to look at, obviously, in
Yeah.
terms of just gauging. Yes.
Yeah, with many of the contending teams that we've discussed over the past hour, one of my favorite team in the NBA, just to mention it, it's the Boston Celtics, and they've been struggling this whole season.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, I've been cheering for them ever since before. Like I'm really a
Oh
diehard
man.
fan, and syempre,
You
I still
bleed
believe in
green, huh?
them. I still
Because
believe
you're
in
you're from
them.
LaSalle, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So there, perfect.
yeah.
So you
That's
still
why
believe? Okay. So
I
Boston is in that dangerous situation of being at
yeah,
number seven,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
I still believe in them because especially they beat the Sixers already twice in the playoffs before. But as you mentioned, you don't put too much too much into account on those because it's a new lineup already. Yeah.
Yes, and you're talking about the playoffs last year
Yeah.
and
And two, three
previous
years
year,
ago. Yeah.
right?
Parang ganun.
Totally different coach,
Yeah.
totally different system. And I'm not just talking about Philadelphia being totally different. Even Boston is a different team now.
Yeah.
The way they're playing is just different. So I don't want to put too much weight on that. Um, and then they let go of a couple of players, right? Like
Ice.
so, yeah, Thais who played
Mm.
big with Chicago today in their
Mm-hmm.
win today. So yeah, I they are experienced in the playoffs. To be fair to you, um, but I wouldn't be worried about them as much just because confidence plays a big um, factor going into the playoffs. And right now, their confidence is very, very, very low. Unfortunately, they
Yeah.
may be able to disrupt here and there, um, but I don't. I don't think, and again, I'm never really right always, but I don't think there'll be a team that the top four teams would be worried about in terms of
Yeah.
when it comes to a series, to be fair and to be honest. But I may be wrong. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was wrong about Aaron Gordon. So
Oh, yeah. For me also, I'm not that confident, even like from a non-biased perspective, because like the
Mhm.
Celtics don't really match up well with those teams because they
Right.
have the bigs and Boston has literally like no bigs. I mean, they have like bigs, but not at that caliber. They have like Taco
And I guess
Fall,
the
but
way they're
he's
playing
not like that.
also, right? And the way they're playing right now, it's just not the Boston of previous years. I mean, to be really honest.
Yeah, I watch a lot of their games. Like this season, been able to watch it through League Pass. Like if I miss it, I watch
Right.
the game. It's really
Right.
terrible. They have no ball movement and no bench. So I don't know. There's still 20 to 25
Well,
games,
well,
so it can
well,
still.
you're the fan, so you have every right to say stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I feel that pag matchups then sa playoffs, that's when it will decide it because they don't match up well with the Heat as seen last year.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, and the Nets, they really can't beat the Nets. Like in
Yeah.
the 2 games or 3 games
You
this year
know,
they got
honestly,
beaten.
Boston will be lucky if they stay in the hunt for the playoffs. Actually, with the way things are going, especially in the East, where one win, 2 wins, brings
Mm-hmm.
you up and down. Like Charlotte and
Yeah.
Indiana and Atlanta, they're all battling. So you never know. New York, pa pala, who's also in their category.
Yeah. Swerte lang din yung Boston that Collins is injured now, I think, for the Hawks, and then
For Atlanta,
Lamelo
right?
and Hayward are injured for the Hornets, so it gives them a
Right,
chance
right.
to at
It's
least
a
make it.
big deal.
But
The
first round
Hayward thing the
exit.
other day was a big deal, yeah.
Yeah. Baka first round exit lang. But then, I don't know. We'll see.
Which which would be honestly with the way they're playing would probably be a great achievement
Yeah.
already
So
if
as
they can
we
even compete.
move on to
Yeah.
the final portion of the episodes, I wanted to ask if you have any dark horse teams from either conference that we haven't discussed, maybe Dallas or Atlanta
well,
or
well,
something.
my dark horse for the East would be Miami. And I only put them dark horse. I know people might say, "Oh, this is crazy. They were in the finals last year."
Yeah.
Again, this is all in context of this year. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I only put them as a dark horse because they're not even in the top four.
They're not yet.
They're
Yeah.
not in the top four. But if they get healthy in the playoffs and they fall into a matchup that's favorable for them, they're dangerous with their lineup. That's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying that as a dark horse because the top two teams of Brooklyn and Philadelphia, kumbaga sa liamado na yan eh. Sobrang
Mm-hmm.
liamado na yan.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I'm not going to put the Milwaukee Bucks as a dark horse because one, I just don't see it happening. Um, although that would blindside everybody if they make it not to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And two, again, they're not a dark horse because uh, I think they have a two-time MVP in their in their lineup center. In the West, the West is the one that really is a dark horse. To me, I think my dark horse would be Portland because I can't call Denver a dark horse because they're doing so well.
Yeah.
I only use the phrase dark horse to teams that are like kind of
Yeah.
they're good, but they just have not had the luck yet of health or all of these things. So that's why I also put Miami in there. They're like in the middle of the road, but once they get healthy, they might make a run, and they have championship experience. I can't put the same thing about Denver. Can't say the same thing about Denver because they've done well all season, right? They've been considered as a contender the whole season. Can't say the same thing about the Clippers because the expectations are always there for the Clippers because you do have Kawhi, and then you have Phoenix and Utah who are number one and number two, so you can't say they're dark horses. Then you have LA who is the defending champion. So I would say if I'm sticking to my own definition of dark horses, I would say Portland, maybe.
Yeah, how about for
My
the
opinion.
awards or yeah, awards? Do you have any like hot takes on it? Because some people have like Harden. Their hot take is Harden shouldn't even be in the ballot because of the Houston stuff that
Oh, you
happened
mean
like 10 games.
MVPs?
Any
Or
award?
the
You have like a
MVPs?
hot take? Like it's not really a popular
A
opinion,
hot
but
take.
yeah, like not that popular opinion that like ESPN personalities would say, but you believe in. Do you have
Mm.
any of those for the
Not
NBA
really,
this
because
season?
this year I've been wanting a center to win it. So either Embiid and Jokic, and they're both in a good spot to be. At one point, I was still thinking LeBron had a still a great chance.
He had a chance.
Yeah, be, also because of the narrative of last year, na
Mm-mm.
parang hindi niya nakuha, so parang there's a little bit of media sympathy also, and then he's doing so well, and then
Yeah.
he got injured. So I don't have, unfortunately, a hot take when it comes to these things. There was a time maybe for a moment that hey maybe Jimmy Butler can do this, but no, no.
The
I
games
think
played
yeah,
kasi. Sayang.
yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So personally have no hot take. I wanted either Embiid or Jokic to win, just because we haven't had a center to win it since I think Shaq, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Yeah,
Yeah.
matagal na rin, ano?
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Sorry, I'm
it's
not a hot
okay.
takes person.
I'm also Jokic. I'm also rooting for Jokic to win it. Like I've watched a lot of Denver games, like on League Pass, even if they're not on national TV, and I
Yeah, me
enjoy
too. Yeah,
Jokic.
yeah, yeah.
So for the final part of the interview, these are like a few questions that I normally ask my other guests also. It's not related to the NBA already. It's just for fun and for a good
Sure,
lesson for
let's do it. Game.
the viewers. So one is it's all related to the NBA. Like they had the Black Lives Matter movement like during the bubble. And you know the Filipinos aren't as vocal as the athletes in the US and other countries. And what's your take on athletes being vocal on social issues and political issues, specifically here in the Philippines? Like, do you think they should be
Well,
more vocal because of their platform?
I don't. I'm not the kind of guy who would say should be, should be, should be, because that it really depends on per person, on your ability and your beliefs. This is how I'm going to answer your question. I always answer questions like these by saying, do it if you're doing it for the right reasons. But if you're doing it because everybody's doing it, you're doing it because you feel you're missing out, you're doing it because I think everything boils down to your impetus of wanting to do it. What's the reasoning for you to want to do it? Even in our case, in our lives,
Yeah.
even with us, a lot of people out there, athletes or otherwise, personalities, are doing a lot of good things, but they don't talk about it. They don't, discuss it. And then there are a lot who post about it. And
Mhm.
again, that's okay. I don't see it as a requirement that you should. But my question will always be, what is the motivation behind it? So if your motivation behind it is pure and it comes from a great place, a sincere place, and only honestly you can answer that question, you personally, you can be the only person who can be true to yourself and answer that question honestly, then so be it. Do what you feel is right. I don't think there should be a should be this, should be that. You're categorized as this, so you should be this, you should be that. You know, um, if you want to use your platform, if you have one, why not? But don't do it because everybody's talking about it.
Yeah,
You know what
for
I mean?
sure,
Or
for sure.
platform,
Yeah.
platform, platform. Or brand. I cringe a little when those words are used, platforms and brands, because that says more. Sometimes it says about us using it, the words, you know. So I don't like using those words. So
Yeah,
that's my take on it. Yeah.
yeah, I agree because that's most of my guests have the same sentiments. Like even Gabe Norwood, I had him and he's very active with those issues because he's also from the US. And yeah, he
Right.
mentioned
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
right. Yeah. See here, in a smaller scale, it's just like anything in this world. In a classroom, what why would just be the most popular student be able to answer questions? Why can't the quietest guy? What I'm saying is there shouldn't be shouldn't be should. You shouldn't
Mhm.
talk in class. You should talk in class. Diba? Wala namang ganun eh, diba?
Wala.
Everybody's
Yeah.
encouraged
Mm-hmm.
to speak about a certain subject. But it's up to you now. Do I have the confidence to do it? Am I doing it for the right reasons? You know, do I know the answer to the question if it's a classroom question for those things? Diba? That's the smaller scale um, analogy that I would make. But there shouldn't be, the class president is the only one allowed to talk, or the most popular guy, or the guy in front. Diba? What about the guys in the back? They have the equal opportunity. It's just a matter of whether they want to. So if you want to, go. There shouldn't be you should not do it. Go. If you have 2 followers on Twitter and you want to say something, then go.
Yeah.
You know, go. But as long as the intention is pure.
Yeah. So for the final two questions, these are all similar to the ones from All the Smoke. If you watch that podcast of Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson.
Right?
So
Yeah.
one of it is they ask who are 5 dinner guests dead or alive that you'd want to have dinner with.
Uh, yeah. 5.
Yeah, any
Uh,
from any
well,
industry.
MJ's got to be there in that
Yeah.
conversation. I'd like to talk to him. I'd like to talk to David Stern.
Hmm.
Um, I'd like to pick their brains. Um, hmm. I love to be able to sit down with Pat Riley.
Yeah.
I saw him one time in Dallas when I covered the finals. Dallas and Miami. I think it was 2011 or
Yeah. 11.
2012,
11.
one of those
Yeah.
years. And man, when I saw him, he's like mafia. He has this
Yeah.
presence about him. So you know, that's three, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Easy answer would be Kobe. Obviously, that's an
Hmm.
easy answer. But I've also had an opportunity to to chat with him three times in the Philippines. So I'm only picking ones that I've never
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
talked to. Um, are we just talking about NBA people, right? We're
No,
just
any.
talking
It
about
can be like
oh any.
historians or I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Any.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, hirap yan, ah.
Politicians if you want. I don't know.
Politics.
Celebrities. Any.
Baduy. Who, who did I say? Pat Riley, MJ. Yeah, okay.
David Stern.
David Stern, one who
Yeah.
has passed away. Because I was
Yeah.
just thinking from an NBA standpoint. Um, it's an interesting question that I never really thought of, even if I would hear it all the time.
Yeah.
All the smoke.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like people said Jose
Yeah,
Rizal
I would,
and stuff.
I would love to have a conversation with Dana White.
Oh yeah, you watch UFC a
That
lot. I see stories
I worked with UFC
before.
for 7 years. Yeah,
Mm.
when we had the UFC here in the Philippines, I hosted a lot of MMA athletes here in the Philippines too. So I've been very lucky, very passionate about that sport also. So I'd love to
Yeah.
just sit down and chat with that guy. That guy's gonna be very very.
Yeah.
That would be very very interesting, and maybe have a conversation with Joe Rogan too.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
just for kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the final question, it's also from All the Smoke.
Oh,
Who
I'd love to be a guest in Hot Ones.
yeah, yeah, I know that. Yeah. For
Sean, what's his name? Yeah, the host, such a good host.
yeah. So for the final question, it's
Baduy,
who do you think I should invite here on the podcast that would have a great story, like for an athlete or maybe from the media
Jimmy Alapag
industry?
will be the first one. I'll always say. I mean, he's the best conversationalist, best storyteller. He's a
Mhm.
great guy. He's like great stories,
Yeah.
his personal stories, and he's a good friend. But I'm not saying that because he's a good friend. He's just an all-around great guy and a great conversationalist. And there's a lot of you'll always learn something from Coach Jimmy when you talk to Coach Jimmy.
Do you have any other suggestions, like even from your industry, like the media industry, or even yeah, any athlete from other sports, maybe that will be good for a podcast?
Dami, dami. There's so many people. Miko Alili is another guy
Hmm.
who has such a prolific brain, and has a lot of stories, and is a very well-read person, and can share a lot of information. And people like you, especially, who are learning this craft. Um, he's been a great friend, and I've learned a lot from him, just watching him and working with him, and just being a friend to him, and just having personal conversations with him. Yeah, it's also a great guy to have
Yeah. So
on the show.
so as we wind down, I just want to thank you again, Boom, for
Thank
coming on
you,
to
thank
the
you.
podcast. And I
No,
want
no,
do you have any final message or final words before we go?
no, not really. I want to wish you luck. I hope this becomes a great passion of yours. Continue doing it. If you continue to love it, then just find the time to do it. And I hope it grows, and I hope it leads to a lot of other things for you
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
And for all your listeners and watchers, I hope everybody stays safe and continues to pray that this will all be over so we can all meet in person maybe and maybe have a beer and talk about life more
Yeah.
with
So
everybody.
yeah, before you go, is it okay if we take a picture?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. One, two, three. Okay. Thank you so much
Okay,
again,
one more,
Boo.
one more. Let's do one
One
more.
more.
Let's do one more.
Okay. One, two, three. Okay, thank you so much,
All right,
Boom, for
man.
coming to the
Thank
podcast,
you.
even if
No
you're busy.
problem.
And
I'm
yeah, and
sorry. I ramble on and it's all useless information.
no, it's fun. It's fun. So thank you so much again. And
All right,
yeah,
ingat.
I'll be happy to invite you again in the future.
Sure, sure, man. Good luck. Thank you
Okay.
very much and good luck. All right,
Thank
take care,
you.
man.
Take
All
care.
right, bye bye.
Stay safe.